There are 50 states in this country. When it comes to your car's annual inspection, they might as well be 50 different countries. A car that drives fine in Florida can fail the moment you move to New Jersey. A truck legally lifted and tinted in Texas can get flagged the week you try to register it in New York. And if you bought a used car from out of state without knowing any of this, you may already be staring at a repair bill nobody warned you about. This is one of the most misunderstood parts of owning a car in America. Today we're going through the whole thing state by state, category by category, so you know exactly where you stand. If you're new here, this channel covers real car ownership, inspection rules, hidden costs, and how to avoid getting burned when buying or owning a vehicle. Subscribe and hit notifications. We put out practical content every week with no padding. Now let's get into it. The first thing to understand is that the United States has no single federal vehicle inspection standard. Washington sets emissions rules through the Clean Air Act, and it sets safety standards for how new cars are built, but it does not require states to inspect those cars once they're on the road. That's entirely each state's call. And the result is a system that confuses millions of drivers every year, especially anyone who moves across state lines. So let's start with the states that have decided inspection just isn't their problem. 16 states have no statewide safety or emissions inspection as of 2024. Florida, Michigan, Minnesota, Arkansas, Kansas, Kentucky, Iowa, Mississippi, Montana, South Carolina, South Dakota, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Wyoming, Alaska, and Louisiana. If you live in any of those, you can drive with worn brakes, a dead catalytic converter, illegal window tint, and a check engine light that's been on since the Obama administration, and as long as you pay your registration fee, you're legal. Nobody is stopping you. That might sound great, no inspection, no stress, but here's where it matters for buyers. A used car from one of these states can look clean on paper and be a mechanical wreck underneath. When a seller or dealer says a car passed inspection in Florida or Michigan, that phrase means almost nothing in a government safety sense. There is no program in those states checking the brakes, tires, emissions, or steering. The inspection they're talking about is probably a dealer lot walkthrough, not a government-mandated test. That distinction will cost you money if you buy that car and register it somewhere that actually inspects things. Now let's go through the states that do require inspections, because they're not all the same either. Some states only do a safety check. They look at your brakes, lights, tires, steering, windshield, and horn, but they don't touch emissions at all. Texas runs an annual safety inspection. Vermont does too. New Hampshire runs a thorough annual safety check. In these states, your engine can burn a quart of oil a week and your catalytic converter can be completely gone as long as your lights work and the car stops, you pass. Other states only test emissions with no safety inspection. California is the most prominent example. The California Smog Check tests your exhaust using an OBD-II scan on 1996 and newer vehicles and a tailpipe test on older ones. But California inspectors are not looking at your brake pad thickness, your tire tread, or the crack in your windshield. Their only question is how clean your exhaust is. Then there's the strictest group states that require both a safety inspection and an emissions test. New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Maryland, and Virginia are all in this category. These states check your brakes, lights, tires, steering, windshield, suspension, horn, and then they plug into your OBD-II port and scan your emissions monitors. A car has to pass on multiple fronts to get a sticker. That's part of why used cars from these states can carry a small price premium. They've been vetted by a government-certified inspector every year. Now the specific failure points, because this is where the money actually comes out of your pocket. Brakes. Most inspection states require a minimum pad thickness of around 2 millimeters, roughly 1/16 of an inch. Below that, you fail. A full brake job on a typical sedan, both axles with pads and rotors, runs $300 to $800 depending on the car and shop. If you bought a used car and the pads looked okay to you, but the inspector measures them at 1.5 millimeters, you're paying that repair before you get your sticker. Tires. The federal minimum tread depth is 2/32 of an inch. Most people can tie-ball that. An inspector who sticks a gauge in and reads 1/32 is failing you on the spot. A new set of 4 tires for a standard sedan runs $400 to $900. Lights. A single burned-out bulb, one taillight, one brake light is a failure in most states. A bulb costs $10 to $30 at a parts store, but some shops that do both inspections and repairs will fail you on the bulb and charge you labor to fix it. Know what that setup looks like. Replace bulbs yourself before you go in. Windshield. A crack through the driver's direct line of sight is a failure in most safety check states. Pennsylvania is particularly strict about this. Windshield replacement, especially on modern cars with cameras, rain sensors, or lane assist systems embedded in the glass, can run anywhere from $200 to over $1,000. OBD-II readiness monitors. This is the one that catches the most people off guard. Every car built since 1996 has an onboard diagnostic system, OBD-II, that runs a series of internal self-tests called readiness monitors. These check whether your fuel system, catalytic converter, oxygen sensors, evaporative emissions system, and other components are working correctly. When everything is normal, those monitors show ready. When a battery is disconnected or when someone erases fault codes with a scanner, those monitors reset to not ready. Here's the problem. In most emissions states, too many not ready monitors is an automatic inspection failure even if the check engine light is completely off. This is how sellers hide problems. They erase the codes before the sale. The light goes off. The car looks clean. You buy it, drive it for a few weeks, the light comes back on, and now you're at the inspection station with a catalytic converter that needs to be replaced. That repair alone can run $800 to $2,500. To reset OBD monitors naturally, a car needs to be driven through a full drive cycle, typically 50 to 150 miles of mixed city and highway. If you're buying a used car and the seller mentions the check engine light just went off on its own recently, that is a red flag. Get an OBD scan from an independent shop before you buy. It costs nothing to $50 and tells you exactly what's happening with the monitors and whether codes have been erased. Window tint. This is one of the most common surprises for people moving between states. In Texas, front side windows can be as dark as 25% visible light transmission. In New York and California, front windows must let in at least 70% of light. A Texas car with legal tint will fail a New York inspection. Removing and replacing tint runs $150 to $400, and in strict states, police can cite you for it during a routine stop, so this isn't only an inspection problem. Lift kits. If your truck or SUV has been lifted, pay attention. California enforces bumper height limits under Vehicle Code Section 24008. For passenger vehicles, the front bumper cannot exceed 24 inches in height. A truck lifted 6 to 8 inches beyond stock for legal use in Texas can fail California. Registration. Some other states have similar rules with varying levels of enforcement. Catalytic converters. Federal law prohibits removing or tampering with a catalytic converter on any 1975 or newer vehicle. But in states with no emissions inspection, that law is almost never enforced at the state level. Cars and trucks in non-inspection states regularly run hollowed-out cats or straight pipe exhausts. When those vehicles are sold and registered in California, New York, or any emissions testing state, the new owner faces a replacement bill of $800 to $2,500, sometimes more on European vehicles or hybrids. Now, what happens if your car fails and the repairs are more than you can manage? Most emissions states have waiver programs. Once you've spent a minimum amount trying to fix the car and it still doesn't pass, you can apply for a waiver that allows you to register despite the failure. Those minimum thresholds are $450 in New York, $500 in Massachusetts, $150 in Pennsylvania, and $500 to $650 in California depending on income. These waivers last one inspection cycle. After that, the problem comes back. So what does all of this actually mean for you? If you're buying a used car from a no-inspection state, Florida, Michigan, South Carolina, any of those 16, treat it as if it has never been vetted. Don't take the seller's word for its condition. Pay for an independent pre-purchase inspection, or at minimum get an OBD scan and a visual from a mechanic you trust. Budget $500 to $1,500 for possible compliance repairs if you're bringing it into a strict state. If you already own a car and you're moving to an inspection state, go to a shop before you go to the DMV. Find out what the car needs, get quotes, and handle it on your timeline. The grace period in most states runs 30 to 90 days after you establish residency. After that, an expired sticker can mean a fine of $50 to $200. Dollars depending on where you live. And if you're staying put, check your tire tread before inspection season. Replace burned out bulbs yourself. Don't erase your check engine light and hope for the best. Get the problem actually diagnosed and fixed. The inspection system in this country is fragmented and inconsistent. A car that would fail in New York is completely legal to drive in Florida. That's just the reality. But the people who get hurt most are the ones who didn't know the rules when they bought the car or crossed the state line. Now you do.